So moving into our professional education this morning is how Reiki aids the senior population. And this is by Christine Soza, who's a Reiki practitioner. She's also a death doula with True North Awakening. I'll give you Christine's bio. She is the founder of True North Awakening with over 30 years of experience as an LPN, working as an oncology nurse, clinical nurse, and most recently as a hospice nurse, who now currently works as a certified end-of-life doula and Reiki practitioner. She helps support those at the end of life, people with medical needs, and their caregivers in a more holistic way, which is her passion. Christine received her certifications for end-of-life doula training, elder care, and care consultant in 2020 from Doula Givers Institute, and received her Reiki Master training in 2019 and Medical Reiki Master training in 2022. Christine offers support and education across the country, helping to empower individuals on their own healing journey during an illness or medical event, as well as supporting end-of-life doulas on their journey as they answer the call to support people in their communities across the globe. Christine is proud of the work that she has done in the past 5 years, helping to empower, inspire, and remind others that we are all here to be kind, to love, and to be of service to one another. Helping those to find their true north on their wellness path is her greatest calling. She believes that healing is possible even up till we take our last breath. Christine, we're very pleased to have you this morning, and it is your time, my dear.
Thank you so much. Boy, um, hearing that, I'm like, wow, it's such a good reminder about why I'm here and why we are all here, right? This is a powerful time that we are all in. I think especially coming out of COVID, um, still COVID is still here, but I think about kind of what an experience that was for all of us, and so reminding us that we're all uh, here to remember that we are not human doings, but we're human beings. And so when I am in the presence of taking care of people, whether I'm an end-of-life doula or am helping folks with Reiki, um, it reminds me on a daily basis to just be fully present. And I think that's where the magic happens. And so that's why I am so excited to present to you today about Reiki for helping to support our seniors in our communities. So go ahead and next slide, please, Dara. Thank you. So I am going to present how Reiki can support our senior population, and I am Christine Soza with True North Awakening. So excited. I'm a little nervous, so please bear with me. Go ahead and we'll share the next slide, Dara. Thank you. So today we're going to discuss what is Reiki, why our seniors need Reiki, why we all need Reiki for that matter, and then the benefits that they can receive from a Reiki practitioner. So next slide. So life is a journey and not a destination. And I have to tell you that I am not the same woman that I was even 5 years ago. In the intro, it was mentioned that I have been in the healthcare field for a very long time. And I actually have considered myself a caregiver most of my life. And I think it started, my grandfather had multiple strokes when I was about 10. And so he lived in a home care environment, and then also in a nursing home at the end. And it was like 10 years of really hard, and watching him continue to decline was really challenging, and watching the stress that put on my family, trying to help support him financially, emotionally. I think we can't minimize the amount of stress it puts on the person that's experiencing a health crisis, but also their caregivers, their loved ones. It can be really challenging. And so we're going to talk a lot about stress. Stress is everywhere. But for me personally, being a caregiver for most of my life has really helped prepare me. All the experiences I've had help prepare me to really step into this state of being aware of the needs of looking at the person as a whole person. I think in the medical field, sometimes, not always, but sometimes we have a tendency to just focus on the diagnosis or the disease or the certain body part. And so what I have been reminded in the past few years, especially, is that we're reminding that we are all just these beautiful spiritual beings having this human experience. So my journey is not any different than most people. I did not do a very good job at self-care at all. I just didn't have that awareness. I just put other people, caring for other people first. And I just didn't do a very good job of taking care of myself. And so what happened for me is I had a very steep decline in health after a significant amount of loss in my life. My husband was working full time. I was working full time. And I love, they call it, it's very kind that they call it the sandwich generation. But for me, I call it the beautiful, delicious, creamy center of an Oreo. My husband and I were just right in that creamy, beautiful center of our kids weren't quite fully launched from the home, but our parents were aging very quickly, and they declined very quickly, all about at the same time. And it was just a really challenging time for all of us. And so I lost both of my in-laws, my mother, my grandmother, our dog, and then and then there was a catastrophic fire that happened in our community where 85 people lost their lives and half of my friends lost their home. And I was really not doing well. I had some physical things going on, and I just kept putting my care on the back burner. And I just was just toughing through all of it. And then after all of that happened, I had a healthcare crisis, and I just got really sick. And so I was given a forced pause. My body said, "Hey, you need to take a break." And so I was given this beautiful forced pause from work. I was, they were talking about doing surgery and giving me medications, and I really didn't want to do all of that. And so I began to look for some support outside of the Western medicine uh, realm. And so I started looking into, it was suggested for me to do Reiki, massage, and acupuncture. So that was kind of my treatment protocol. I want to just tell you, full disclosure here, what I am, when I continue to talk, I am not, this is not to demonize our Western medicine, our healthcare system. They're doing an amazing job. They're doing an amazing job. I'm part of it. But sometimes we need some extra support. And so having these complementary or integrative therapies can be super helpful. And so for me, that was my journey as I began to look outside of the box to help support my healing process. And Reiki was part of that. And I have to tell you that I feel like I was just managing really well. I was managing my stress really well. I was handling it. I'm fine. I'm doing fine, but really I was not. And so I could not. I wasn't managing stress at all. At all. And so when I started to do Reiki, especially, it really helped to soften the edges a little bit, and it really helped for me to navigate my day much better. And so. Um, so I so I went on my healthcare journey, and that was about 6 or 7 years ago. And so stress can really affect us in so many ways. And I want you guys to just take a second and just take a moment, because we have I think that it just takes a lot of energy for us to even just sit upright. And for our senior population, it takes a lot of energy for some, especially if they have multiple health conditions. It just takes a lot of energy to eat, to just be. And so I want you to just take a moment and just tune in to see if you're holding any stress in your body right now. So I have a tendency to hold stress in my jaw and my shoulders. And when I get anxious, or when I'm feeling anxious, or I feel that I'm feeling stressed, I'll even just notice that there's some tension in my jaw. So I just want you to take a moment, close your eyes if you'd like, and just tune in and see if your body is holding any stress. Sometimes we don't even take time during the day to remember to take some deep breaths, drinking water. Are we eating nourishing food? I think if we can be fully present within ourselves, then we can really be way more effective in helping those that we serve. So just pay attention and see where that stress is. And just allow yourself to just sink a little deeper into your chair. I lovingly call it be where my hands are. And sometimes I get busy throughout the day, um, and sometimes I'm driving and I can't even remember, gosh, where have I been? You know, our minds become so busy. There is a woman, her name is Jill Bolte Taylor, and I will put in the chat here in a little bit. I need to take Tina's tech classes because I am not tech savvy at all. And so after I'm done here, I will post something. Um, Jill Bolte Taylor is a beautiful woman. She studies the brain. She's a neuroscientist, and and she talks about the difference between our left hemisphere of our brain and our right hemisphere of our brain. And so she actually had a stroke in the left hemisphere of her brain. And so when we are busy thinking and doing, and we're all so task oriented that sometimes we forget to just be present. And that's what our right hemisphere of our brain reminds us, is to just be fully present. And so our seniors especially have a lot of stress. And so as I continue to talk, we're going to be stepping into that space of Reiki, how it can help people with stress, and how we can support one another. So I'm going to let you go ahead and flip to the next slide, Dara. Thank you. So the cure of the part should not be attempted without the treatment of the whole. No attempt should be made to cure the body without the soul. Let no one persuade you to cure the head until he has first given you his soul to be cured. For this is the great error of our day, that physicians first separate the soul from the body. And that was from Plato from a few years ago. And so I lovingly call Reiki spiritual medicine. Okay, Darren, next slide. Thank you. So what is Reiki? Oh my gosh, I get that question a lot. And I really have practiced my elevator pitch because it is something that people aren't aware of. And so my elevator pitch when I share it with people is that Reiki is a complementary or integrative therapy that aids in stress reduction and promotes deep relaxation. Thank you, Karen, for posting that. My stroke of insight is the TED Talk. She's written several books. Thank you for that, Karen. And so next slide, Dara, thank you. So why do our seniors need Reiki? Well, there is a lot of reasons why our seniors and ourselves need Reiki. So one of the things that that happens, as we know, with our aging population is that there's changes in their health condition, and that can happen over a period of time slowly, or sometimes it can be a sudden change. And so the health issues, changes in health, things like chronic illnesses, changes in cognition with dementia and Alzheimer's, cardiac issues, pulmonary issues, hypertension, high blood pressure, musculoskeletal disorders. I think my husband is just a wee bit older than me, and he super athletic when he was younger, and he was like, oh, you know, I used to run like a deer, and he's just losing, you know, his balance and just getting frustrated with the changes in our health condition. And so, so that can cause stress. loss and grief. I think, Sherry did a great presentation on, as we prepare for the inevitable journey that we will all take, there is significant amount of loss. And I'm not just talking about loss in the sense of losing our loved ones, which is a huge loss, but also loss of, physical abilities. There's so many things that little bits of losses as we continue to age. So there's a separation from their friends and family. If they're having to change where they live, there's all sorts of different types of losses. Loss of their independence, loss of their freedom, a ton of financial concerns and worries. There's worries and stress around reduced income, going into retirement, or even fixed incomes. There's a lot of financial insecurity that can cause an extreme amount of stress in our senior population. There's social isolation. I think in the medical field, we just focus on physical diseases, their diagnosis, a particular body part that needs to be healed. But I think that we really need to recognize the disease of isolation. It's huge, especially during COVID. Hearing how our seniors were in facilities or in their homes. I think that if we really were to truly look at the statistics on death from COVID, I think that we need to really include death from isolation, because it was devastating to our seniors to not have support and community around them during that really difficult time. The caregiver responsibility. So oftentimes our seniors have caregivers that they're caring for, even though they have their own maybe perhaps chronic issues, but they're also having to care for their loved ones. And so that's a tremendous amount of extra added stress. And just those little changes in health can be a huge challenge for them, for both of them as they continue to age. Relocation stress syndrome. I had to look that up. That's a real thing. And it is when a senior locates to a new community, even just downsizing from their home, but sometimes moving into a new town, being closer, moving closer to their loved ones, so that they can receive some assistance, some extra assistance and support. So a relocation stress syndrome is a psychological condition that can occur when a senior experiences significant stress and anxiety due to this move, manifesting in symptoms like confusion, depression, withdrawal, changes in eating or sleeping patterns, the emotional distress associated with leaving a familiar home and adapting to a new environment. That can be very stressful for someone. Solo agers, we have 20% of our population do not have children. And so we really need to recognize the added stress of how can they look for some added support. And I think LEARN does such a great job of helping to support our seniors find those resources that are so needed. So those are some ideas, and I know you can think of some other reasons why seniors need Reiki, but going back to that statement of promoting aids in stress reduction and promotes deep relaxation. So Dara, we'll go to the next slide. Thank you. So Reiki is so when I talk about Reiki, giving that elevator pitch of stress reduction and promotes deep relaxation, I think when we get to the nuts and bolts of what really truly is Reiki, because my brain, I talked about it just a little bit ago about Jill Bolte Taylor and my stroke of insight. A majority of us, I don't know, you guys might be far advanced, but I live a majority of my time in my left hemisphere of my brain, my analytical side. And so when I'm thinking about things, making my lists, of things to do. I'm a big list maker. You should see my desk behind me. I've got a ton of sticky notes to help remind me. But oftentimes when I'm living in that left hemisphere of my brain, I am thinking about the future, or I'm thinking about things in the past. And so when I activate my right side of my brain, that's where I can be fully present. And so Reiki, the mechanisms of action of Reiki is that it's thought to act on the autonomic nervous system to lower blood pressure and heart rate. So when I think about having a little bit of medical background, when I did nursing school, they talked about the nervous system, and I heard about the parasympathetic nervous system and the sympathetic nervous system. I didn't fully understand that until I started doing Reiki. And then I realized, oh my gosh, that's what they were talking about in nursing school. So our sympathetic nervous system is our fight or flight reaction. And so years and years ago, we had to forage and hunt for our food. We may or may not have been chased by saber-toothed tigers, but we have this immediate burst of adrenaline that's released in our body, and we have to take action right away. We are safe from that situation, and then we switch into our parasympathetic nervous system, which is our rest and relaxed, and our rest and digest state is how it's referred to. So, but what's happening to us in our society, and our seniors are involved in a high amount of stress, is that we are in this constant state of stress all the time. We can't sustain that for long. We're not built for that. We are built to be in that parasympathetic nervous system, to have an awareness of being present, fully present. And so what Reiki can offer is providing this activation of the parasympathetic nervous system. So the other way that I describe Reiki is maybe you're sitting at a computer and you're kind of working on a project, and the deadline is due, and you're just sitting there for hours and hours and hours. And someone comes up behind you and they place their hands on your shoulders, and then you just let go. You realize, oh my gosh, I didn't even realize that I was holding that amount of stress. That's another way that I describe Reiki, is just catching your breath. So when our sympathetic nervous system is activated, we're in that fight or flight. And physiologically, if we were to understand what that means to our body, is that our blood pressure goes up, our heart rate goes up, our respirations become more, we breathe more quickly, and then the blood vessels in our body actually constrict. So the blood that is normally being sent to the rest of our organs to support our body, it just makes it more difficult for that to happen. That's why it's temporary. That's why we should not be in the sympathetic nervous system all the time, because our bodies can't function properly. And what happens with Reiki and other complementary therapies, and I'm not saying that Reiki has the claim to activating the parasympathetic nervous system. There's other ways to activate it. Massage and acupuncture, like I mentioned, holding a puppy, holding a baby, going out in nature, listening to music. Those activities all also activate our parasympathetic nervous system. So what happens when we activate that parasympathetic nervous system, that our blood pressure goes down, and our heart rate goes down, and our respiration slow, and those blood vessels I was talking about become dilated again, and so that our organs can be tended to the way that they were meant to be. So Reiki can activate the relaxation response, encourages the healing, and creates an overall sense of well-being, creates balance in the body, mind, and spirit, relieving stress and anxiety. I can do other things, as I'll mention here soon. But actually, the most important thing is that it invites seniors to participate in their own healing process. And I think my husband has a cancer diagnosis, and when we sat in the doctor's office, the first word we heard was cancer, and then we heard nothing else for the next hour. And then we immediately became involved in the medical wheel of of wellness, which has been an amazing thing to support him physically. Um, but but oftentimes what happens is that we feel, at least I'm speaking for myself and experience with my husband, is that we have just felt like just, another patient, and 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 we become our disease and our diagnosis. And what happens sometimes is that we forget that we are treating the whole person. And so, what Reiki can do is invite our seniors to participate in their own healing process. I think that's really important because when we get a diagnosis or when we have a medical condition, especially a chronic one, that just becomes the whole focus. And so, what we can do is help to encourage and allow our seniors to actively participate in their own healing process and make the decision that they choose to do something a little different that might support them in a more holistic way. Okay, Dara, next slide. So Reiki practitioners are also trained to support people, seniors in operating rooms. I know, isn't that crazy? They're doing Reiki in operating rooms, procedure rooms, chemotherapy suites, dental offices. I oftentimes do Reiki in people's homes, infusion clinics, residential care facilities, hospice care, VA centers. Our veterans desperately need the support and more. So the sky's the limit. You can invite a Reiki practitioner into any environment. Next slide. So the benefits of Reiki for the senior population. Next slide. So these are huge. So Reiki can actually really help with creating a extra layer of support. Um, I think that our seniors need all the help that they can get, and just being able to identify what that need might be. And so I have many stories since I've been doing Reiki for a local hospice company now for about the last 3 years. And so I've met hundreds and hundreds of people, not necessarily at end of life, but I've cared for people from anywhere from age 20 to 102 was my oldest Reiki client. And one of my favorite stories is of a gentleman who had no idea what Reiki was, but he was open to the experience. And I think that's the key, is that you just have to be open to trying it. And that's what I recommend to people. Sometimes it's really difficult to explain the benefits and the effects of how Reiki can benefit people, but I just always encourage people to try it. And so he was open to it, and his wife was super open to it. And she would often sit next to him while I'm doing Reiki for him. And he had a beautiful experience where he actually jumped up and started singing. So, I think that it can help increase an overall sense of well-being. So it can provide an extra layer of support, reduce anxiety and pain medication, which is huge, improve sleep, mood, can offer companionship. And then it can support the caregivers and medical staff in acting as an extra set of eyes and ears. And next slide. So the Joint Commission staff recognizes the benefits of alternative and integrative therapies. So they are recognizing that there's an opioid crisis, so it can help with pain reduction. And so they're required to use one non-pharmacological pain treatment modality and ensure that a patient preference for pain managements are considered. I think that's really important that JACO recognizes the importance of integrative therapies. Next slide. We can skip this one, Dara. Thank you. So reasons to offer Reiki in our senior population. There's a demand for it. I'm seeing it more and more. So people are looking for different models of care, and it helps to promote senior empowerment, reminding people of to be fully present. One of the benefits of Reiki is that it's super cost effective. It's safe, it's non-invasive, it's appropriate for all medical conditions, and there are no contraindications. There is a ton of research, and I'm happy to share research studies that are currently been done and are being done, have been done to demonstrate positive outcomes. So everybody benefits. Our senior population benefits, families, caregivers. I think when they know that when their loved one is being cared for, I think that everybody wins. And next slide. So Reiki programs in hospitals, as you can see, I won't read the full list, but Mayo Clinic, the Cleveland Clinic, Johns Hopkins, UCLA, New York Presbyterian, the list goes on. So there are robust Reiki programs all over the country that are supporting those in the healthcare system. Next slide. So NIH, which is the National Institute of Health, they recognize Reiki and have a statement that Reiki is a complementary health approach in which practitioners place their hands lightly on or just above a person with the goal of directing energy to help facilitate the person's own healing response. It's based on an Eastern belief that an energy that supports the body's innate or natural healing abilities. Reiki hasn't been shown to have any harmful effects. I think that's an important statement, and that was in 2018. Okay, next slide, Dara. Thank you. So what kind of support would you want or need as the time draws near? We're running out of time. But I just want everyone to reflect. How would you want perhaps your end of life experience or your own healthcare journey? And how can we help support our seniors? And I've heard over and over and over again, as we continue to age, we feel like we're a little bird in a cage with our wings that have been clipped, and everybody else is carrying on with their lives. And I think that, so I think that we need to really be supportive in maybe perhaps looking at our senior population in a whole new way of not just their medical condition, but looking at them as a whole person and how we can be supportive in something that that may be a little outside of the box. And next slide. Oh, we can skip this one. That's my Reiki master teacher. So what can you do to support our seniors with Reiki in our community? Well, you can refer them to a Reiki practitioner. I would just strongly encourage you to receive Reiki yourself. I think that that's a great start. I think you have to experience it in order to help to explain it. Consider offering Reiki to seniors in your own community, recognizing that medications are so beneficial and important tools for care, but by offering supportive care to our seniors in a more holistic way, maybe the extra layer of support that is needed. Oftentimes, presence is the best medicine. So maybe also think about anticipating needs before the seniors appear extremely stressed by offering support by utilizing these wonderful complementary therapies like Reiki, massage, and acupuncture, music therapy, and pet therapy. And next slide. So it all starts with the heart, and you all have beautiful hearts. You wouldn't be here if you weren't here to serve. So it all starts with the heart. And the final slide is just want to thank you all for listening. And if you have any questions, that is my information. If you have any questions, I think I've overspoke, but I'm open for questions.
You're fine, Christine. I would just like you to take the group quickly through what does a typical Reiki session look like?
Thank you for that. Yeah. So I have a private practice, and so I invite people to my little office space. It's very similar to a massage, except for there is no massaging involved, and people remain fully clothed. And what I typically invite people to do is I have a cozy little bed warmer and make sure that they're nice and cozy. And then I do what's something called a guided imagery. Some folks may have some experience with meditation, and sometimes the language of using meditation might really um, some people may not have meditation experience, which is completely fine. So I just invite people to be open to the experience, and I do something called this guided imagery, where really just helps to invoke all of the senses. And so again, that's just going to activate the right hemisphere of our brain, invoking our senses, reminding them of a special place or time remembering what did it smell like? What did it feel like? What do you hear? What do you see? What do you feel? So I'll kind of walk them to a particular place in nature, um, and then just allow them to just be present. And I also do a little bit of a body scan, and so that really helps me sleep. I'll practice just relaxing certain parts of my body, going all the way down to my toes. And then the actual process of Reiki is them just being comfortable in a position. When I am doing Reiki for people in the community, I just meet people where they're at. Sometimes they're in their wheelchair, sometimes they're in their recliner, sometimes they're in their own bed. And I just meet them where they're at. Sometimes I can I'm just holding their hand. And then we do a little bit of the body scan, and then I just invite them to just be quiet. And then oftentimes, especially with my hospice clients, I'll create a playlist with them. So what music resonates with them? Usually it's something very nature-ish like type music, but I help my clients to build a playlist. And with my end of life clients, I actually create a playlist, and then as they enter their transitional phase, I will share the playlist with the family members so that their loved one has actually created their own end of life playlist, so that their family members can play that music for them as they're transitioning and having their end of life experience. It's really a practice as I'm helping to prepare folks, especially as they're navigating their end of life experience, to really help remember that we don't have to hold on to that stress anymore. We can kind of ease into being fully present. You know, it's a lot of work as we're entering that phase of life. And so if I can get in with people sooner than later, really helping to remind them that you can let go of that stress, and and reminding them to just be fully present. So the Reiki session is just gentle touch. Really, we can't minimize. I hate to say this, but we don't touch each other enough, right? There's just these rules of engagement, right? You know, side hug and, just all of these rules for care. But I think Reiki just really invites that calming presence, and gentle touch. So typically it's just touch on their head, shoulders, a lot of work down at the feet. And people get in such a deep, relaxed state that they often fall asleep. Though they will wake up feeling like a huge amount of weight has been dropped from them. And so a typical Reiki session can last anywhere from 30 minutes to 45 minutes. And I typically will see people sometimes every other week, sometimes monthly. I let them drive the bus on how often they would like to be seen.
That's a great explanation. Thank you.